There's something deeply unsettling about someone who laughs while claiming the world is sinking. And yet, behind that smile hides one of the most revolutionary minds of antiquity, Democritus of Abdera. In a Greece crowded with capricious gods and philosophers chasing absolute truths, there was someone who looked at it all and laughed. He laughed at the human condition, at its illusions, its dogmas, its pretensions. He didn't do it lightly, but with a kind of clear-eyed despair. Because when he looked at humanity, he couldn't find anything serious enough to deserve a tear. Born in Abdera around 460 BC, Democritus didn't follow the crowd, nor was he dazzled by the fashionable philosophies of his time. He didn't join any schools, didn't seek disciples, didn't build ideological temples. He was a solitary thinker, radical, completely incompatible with the conformity of his contemporaries. His work didn't survive because of public approval, but in spite of it. The great names of philosophy, Plato above all, deliberately ignored him, not because they thought he was irrelevant, but because they feared his destructive force. His view of the world was so incompatible with theirs that it had to be ignored, erased. To Democritus, the universe wasn't created by a god, nor did it move toward any higher purpose. There was no immortal soul, no divine justice. There was only matter. Microscopic, eternal, indivisible matter, the atom. But how could he, 2,500 years ago, without microscopes, without laboratories, without ever having seen one, talk about atoms? He believed that if everything could be broken, cut and divided, then there had to be a limit, a smallest possible piece beyond which you couldn't go any further. That was the intuition behind the word atomon, which in Greek means indivisible. It was the philosopher Leucippus, Democritus's teacher, who first coined the term atomon. But it was Democritus, his student, who turned that word into a radical vision of the world, making the atom the heart of his philosophy. And to him, that tiny particle was everything. Atoms are infinite, eternal, indivisible. They move through the void and make up everything. Nothing exists outside of them. No essence, no divine design. From stones to stars, from thoughts to love, everything is just a temporary combination of atoms in motion. Everything happens because it must, not by a god's will, but by physical necessity. If a life ends, it's because its atoms fall apart. If love begins, it's because certain atoms meet. If a war breaks out, it's just a sequence of collisions, reactions, and chains of events. No guilt, no fate, no forgiveness. That's why, for Democritus, there's no point in crying over tragedy. Pain is real, but it has no meaning. Death is inevitable, but it carries no moral. Everything happens out of necessity, and that's why he laughs. Because he understands how ridiculous human pretensions are. Our thirst for power, blind faith, fear of the unknown, obsession with glory. Everyone is busy playing a tragic role in a cosmic comedy with no director and no audience. I would rather discover one true cause than be king of all Persia, he writes. What drives him is not ambition, but the thirst for understanding. Science for him is not a tool for progress, but a way to expose illusions. Religions, for example, are nothing but inventions born of fear. The gods may exist, perhaps, but they live elsewhere, and they don't care about humanity. So praying is pointless. Fearing is pointless. Believing in divine will is just an elegant way of avoiding the void. Because of this brutal and comfortless worldview, Dante places Democritus in limbo, among the great non-Christian sages. Dante mentions him explicitly in the 4th canto of the Inferno. A world without God, without order or purpose, is pure hell for theology. But Democritus doesn't stop at cosmic illusions. He extends his thinking to ethics, and here, surprisingly, he reveals an even sharper side. Happiness, he says, is not found by accumulating wealth or chasing honor. It's an inner condition, a state of balance between desires and reality. He calls it euthymia, peace of mind. But be careful, it's not passive serenity, it's not resignation. It's the strength of someone who has understood the absurdity of the world and chosen not to be crushed by it. The wise person is the one who laughs, not because they're ignorant, but because they've seen everything. The one who's no longer ruled by passion, because they know it's just atoms in agitation. The one who lives in balance, because they've stopped expecting meaning, justice, or redemption. Democritus doesn't promise salvation. He offers something far more real, clear-eyed truth. In one extraordinary anecdote, it's said that near the end of his life, old and sick, he asked his sister to place him in a tub filled with honey. It wasn't a whim, nor a cure. It was an experiment. He believed that since the soul was made of warm, light atoms, those atoms could be held inside the body longer if their evaporation was slowed. Honey, thick and sticky, might keep the atoms of the soul from escaping. He wanted to watch himself die, to witness the final separation with clarity. No panic, no illusions of salvation, no rituals or prayers. Just a man submerged in honey, waiting for his matter to fall apart. Democritus is the philosopher who laughs at the abyss. His laughter is the result of a clear awareness. The universe is blind, and only those who accept this blindness can ever be free. Among his surviving fragments, one in particular stands out. Men pray for health, but continue to enjoy what destroys it. A single line that captures the human condition: eternal contradiction. A desire for good, paired with self-destructive behavior. Democritus doesn't judge, he observes, and he laughs. Democritus's reflections on the soul weren't just a denial of immortality. The soul is real, but it's material. It's made of atoms, like everything else. It's fragile, temporary, destined to dissolve. And yet, it's what allows humans to act, think, and choose. It's not divine, but it is the center of responsibility. Here emerges one of the most powerful insights of Democritus's thought. If there are no gods to judge, then everything falls on man. Every choice, every mistake, every joy. No excuses. In this view, freedom isn't a divine gift. It's a risk to be faced. Living without a safety net, without an eternal Father who forgives or punishes, is a challenge few are willing to accept. Democritus accepts it and turns it into philosophy. His ethics aren't a code handed down from above, but the result of a mind that observed long and decided not to lie. It's interesting to note how modernity has, in part, rediscovered Democritus. Science, from Galileo to Newton, has echoed many of his insights. The idea that reality is governed by physical laws, that the void exists, that matter is made of particles, all of it begins right there in Abdera. But while modern science seeks to improve the human condition, Democritus observes from a different angle. He doesn't look for solutions, he looks for truth. In a world obsessed with meaning, Democritus's voice is a provocation. Instead of asking why, he invites us to understand how. Instead of promising an end, he shows necessity. Instead of offering comfort, he strips things bare. It's a philosophy that's hard to accept, but impossible to ignore. Because once you've heard that laughter, you can't pretend anymore. And maybe that smile isn't madness. Maybe it's resistance. It's how a man responds to the absurdity of existence, not with tears, not with rage, but with a laugh that tastes of truth. The kind of truth most people avoid, but that he, alone misunderstood, fierce, had the courage to look straight in the eye. Democritus never needed temples or disciples. His thought survived despite ostracism, censorship, oblivion, and blindness. Because some ideas, when they touch the raw nerve of reality, never really disappear. He died around 370 BC, and the story that crossed the centuries is one of the most incredible ever associated with a philosopher. It's said that he died laughing. According to some ancient accounts, the elderly Democritus, nearing the end, burst into such prolonged and uncontrollable laughter that he couldn't breathe anymore. We have no certain proof that it really happened, but if it did, it would be the most coherent farewell imaginable. Because someone who spent a lifetime laughing at the absurdity of the world could only exit in the very same way. Those who can laugh, not out of cynicism, but out of clarity, have understood something that few ever even approach. Democritus's laughter wasn't an act of superiority, but of awareness. A way to survive the void, to look at chaos and not be crushed by it. Maybe laughter is the only way to stay standing in a world that offers no certainties? But the real question is this: who truly has the courage to laugh when truth shows its most brutal face?